Welcome to another episode of Seeing Them Live, a podcast featuring memorable concert stories from live music fans. Everyone has a concert story, and hopefully, one day, we'll hear yours. And now, we'll hear Emma's.
Yes. At the end of the show, this guy was wrapping up all the things for the show, and he was passing out guitar picks. And he passed me one. He passed me a Mike Campbell one, but then he said, I can give you something even better. And it was a Tom Petty one, and that was from their last show.
Emma Breckheisen is most likely the world's youngest concert photographer. At just 8 years old, she has been in the photo pit taking photographs for such bands as Jane's Addiction, El Jardine from the Beach Boys, and for a Led Zeppelin cover band, Led Zeppelin II. Emma has also seen a variety of bands live, including Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs, Olivia Rodrigo, the Black Crowes, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Duran Duran, the Pretenders, and Guns N' Roses. Concert photography is guided by her father, Barry, who started his career as a freelance photographer in 1997 for Jam TV, which quickly became a partnership for the Rolling Stone network. This was where he eventually became the first photo editor for RollingStone.com, working there through 2001. His freelance photography work also includes wire services for Getty Images and the Associated Press, and contributes to live music publications as well as other areas of interest, including portraits, food, restaurants, and special events. Emma and Barry, welcome to Seeing Them Live.
Thank you.
I thought we would go in chronological order, guys, like we usually do with Emma's first concert, which was, I guess, were you there? You describe it, Barry, and I think it's a great description as a kind of bring your daughter to work function, which I think is really cool. So Tiffany was playing at the City Winery. Is that correct?
Yeah, City Winery in Chicago. It was on Father's Day in 2021.
Yeah, and Emma, you seems like you brought along your camera, right?
I did. My Polaroid camera.
Okay. So you're taking Polaroid pictures I see it there. It's like a white camera.
It's kind of a Leica almost looking camera. It's a little retro Polaroid-like camera.
That's really cool. So you were taking pictures along with your dad, and this is also where you picked up your first souvenir, right?
Yes.
You want to describe that?
I took a picture of her, and she was nice enough to sign it.
So you got an autographed picture. That's really neat.
That's Polaroids, right? Makes it easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing the portrait session, and she was shooting along with me the whole time. And then she got her little private session.
Nice. Now, your dad sometimes he pulls surprises on you, right?
Yes, he does.
So the first surprise, you thought you were going on is it a food shoot with him, maybe? Was that what it was?
They're called eater shoots, and for me, that's not that fun.
Just looking at food and stuff, right? But it turned out to be something different. He was telling us that you're a big Tom Petty fan and a big Beatles fan.
Yes.
So he actually surprised you and took you to see Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs at the Park West.
It was very fun.
I bet. And you guys had like a booth, but you made it kind of close to the stage, right? Like right up front, I think, right?
Yeah. Front row.
Front row. And so your dad was taking some pictures, and you were hanging out with some of the women up front, kind of keeping an eye on you.
Yeah, that's the challenge with bringing her along. My writer that I work a lot with, Jim, has a feature with Forbes. It's an entertainment. It's a business feature it's an entertainment feature with a business slant. And so he's really good that when I have to work to keep an eye on her. But, general admission GA shows are challenging if there's no photo pit. So I wasn't sure how much she could be around me. But yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out too. You picked up a couple more souvenirs, didn't you?
Yes. At the end of the show, this guy was wrapping up all the things for the show, and he was passing out guitar picks. And he passed me one, he passed me a Mike Campbell one, but then he said, I can give you something even better. And it was a Tom Petty one, and that was from their last show.
Well, wait, you got a better story than that. Hold on. So the crowd demanded you get a set list, right? And then he said, "Oh, I have a guitar pick for you." So he gives you a Mike Campbell guitar pick, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Hold on, I can do one better." It's basically it's Mike's guitar tech is who it was, and he goes into his little bin and he goes around and he comes up with a Tom Petty guitar pick. He hands it to you, and then you hand it to me. And what happened?
And he says, hey, don't take that. And then you say, well, I'm her father.
I said, "Hold on." So he thought I was stealing it from a 6-year-old or however you. So it got to this really weird moment, and then he goes, "Okay, sorry. Okay, yes, of course you're her dad." So yeah, it got weird for a minute. So it was literally the last Tom Petty tour.
Wow.
That was pretty cool. That was, I mean, believe me, I'm jealous of that guitar pick.
Yeah, you got quite a collection there, Emma, and it keeps growing. So about a couple weeks later, your dad pulled this on you again, didn't he?
Yes.
You thought you were going on another, I guess, a boring photo shoot of something else, and it turned out to be Olivia Rodrigo at the Aragon Ballroom.
Yes, that was my favorite band at the time.
Well, tell us about how you learned about her.
I learned about her from this video game called Just Dance. It was one of her famous songs called Good For You. And then when I went to school that next morning, my friend, one of my best friends, Delilah, she also told me about her too, because she's a really big fan of her.
So this is crazy. I'm getting introduced to bands from her, and then she's getting in, back in the day, it would be radio, it would be MTV, and now it's a video game.
That's a good point, and you're way ahead on the curve there, Emma, because my daughter wants to go see Olivia Rodrigo in the next couple weeks at the United Center. Yeah, those tickets are expensive, and it's just a giant place, as you know. So you saw her at the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, which is a really small, much smaller venue. And what was that like? You got to be with your dad, right, for 3 songs, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that show was complicated. It was sold out. So that show happened in April of 2022, but in 2021, they went on sale in December, completely sold out. Those venues were way too small at that point. Then I think a month before that show, it was the Grammys, and she won for a new artist, a new album, and all this. So she's for her first debut album, and I mean she's already huge, and so those tickets were going on sale for like $1,000 and up. And now I have to figure out how to get her into the show. And if I shoot the show, that's great, but she's going to be more mad at me that I went and she didn't go. So it was a challenging. So my first thing was, who do I know? I'm not trying to get anything for free, but a lot of times tickets with the promoter, they'll go on sale because they don't need it they don't go to the radio or whatever, and there's extra ones. So I put in that bid to let me know. And so the show was Friday and I found out Thursday. So I didn't know that. So part of the reason why I make them surprises, if I can't get her in, I don't want her to know. So that's always a challenge. And so anyway, got the ticket, even though we didn't need it in the end, because in the end, security saw us and just escorted us right through the crowd. So we never scanned our ticket. Better to have that ticket. I'm more than happy to pay for it. And we got there. Somebody said security wants to talk to me, and ended up being head of security that I've known for 20 plus years. And he said, what do you need? And I said, well, is there a place to put my daughter so she's safe and can watch the show? The next thing you know, we're in the box upstairs. And so we're all secure now. I can breathe, and it's time for me to shoot. So I go into, it wasn't the photo pit, actually. They made us shoot from the soundboard for this one for whatever reason. And so I got into the soundboard, and I can see Emma right up to my left. And I go to the head of, that's handling the photo for Olivia. And I said, hey, you can say no, but is it possible for my daughter to hang out here for our 3 songs? And she goes, of course. So I go and grab her, I bring her in, and that person even took photos of us.
Yeah. And then you picked up more souvenirs, didn't you, Emma?
Yes.
So after the show, we went to the stage, and
the person on stage, he gave me the set list. He also gave me some confetti, and fans were also giving me some.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
And then in addition, he goes, you know what? I have one more thing on stage. And what was that, Emma?
That was flowers that Olivia Rodrigo didn't take. He left it on stage.
Somebody threw it on the stage. And actually, I have photos of her holding this, actually. So it's kind of cool. She just left him on stage. And he's like, I have something else for you. So, yes, random weird souvenir.
One of your favorite bands besides Olivia Rodrigo is Duran Duran. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've seen them a couple times, right?
Yes. My first time was
It was that same year, later on in August at the United Center.
Okay.
she was the opening band for
Yeah.
Duran Duran. I really wanted to come into the pit, but he told me I couldn't because the video people for the big screen were just running all around.
Sometimes it's complicated. Sometimes it's really tight. Sometimes it's really loose. Most of the time it's tight. And for this particular show, actually both Duran Duran shows that we've gone to now, they have a video track. So the camera guy is just floating back and forth from stage, left and right. And they're up on the Jumbotron is what these shots are. And so you have to move because that train's coming and they will run you over, or they'll throw you out of that pit. They don't care. It doesn't matter. Their agenda is more important than you. It is what it is. And so, yeah, there's absolutely no way she can get in that pit. But she was a little frustrated. But with that said, again, that's where my writer comes into play. So she's sitting in the seats with my writer. The sometimes writer comes up and my writer, Jim, goes, "Oh, hey, this is Barry's daughter, Emma." You want to tell that story?
Yes. And she said, "What's your favorite song?" I think she would have said that I said Girls on Film or Hungry Like the Wolf, but I said Planet Earth.
She gives a look like, what?
That's a deep track.
And Ordinary World.
Ordinary World. Yeah. And then my writer goes, "Yep,
That's
Barry.
Emma's daughter.
No, that's your album." Yeah.
Nice. So, well, yeah, maybe one of these days you'll get in the pit at Duran Duran.
They're still touring, so why not? They're still putting out albums.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know, Barry and Emma, I thought we might move along to, I don't know, you got this Black Crowes show at the Ravinia, and you were in the aisle on that one taking photographs, Barry, I believe.
I guess that would technically be the second show she shadowed me. So Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs, she shadowed me a little bit, especially at the end. I mean, technically the rules as a concert photographer, our first 3 songs, no flash, unless you're working with the band or on tour with them. I've been working a lot more with the bands, doing portraits, doing features. So I'm getting back to get those advantages. Cause I mean, as we all know, the best things happen after the first 3 songs or the last 3 songs, really, right? The band's really gelling. It really depends. So for the Dirty Knobs, that venue, Park West, is kind of loose. When there's no photo pit, they don't really enforce the first 3 songs rule. So that's kind of how I was feeling it out. So she's hanging out with the suburban soccer moms, or the sweetest people in the world at that one. And then by the end, during the encore, I brought her in. So we were right in front and shooting. And there's photos of her with Mike Campbell behind her. So anyway, so that's the first one. So you jump to the Black Crowes.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. So there's no photo pit at Ravinia. This was one where I was able to bring her mom, my wife, Lauren's an old, huge Black Crowes fan. So am I. And their new stuff coming out is amazing, actually. So I'm pretty excited about it. And so, yeah, so it was kind of a family event. So we had our tickets and our seats, but again, because we're in the aisle and she's small, she's short, we can kind of squirm around. So yeah, she hung out with me for those songs.
Did you like the Black Crowes, Emma? Were they
Yeah,
entertaining?
they were good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're old school rock and roll, right?
Well, I thought we would maybe jump to Lollapalooza 2022. You guys, you were the photographer, right, Barry?
Yeah, I was shooting for a wire service. I was shooting for Getty Images. And then I was also shooting for Forbes. And, I have a whole history with Lollapalooza. It starts back in 2003, ended up being the last tour photographer for their last touring festival. And then, you go from 2003 to being permanently here in Chicago in 2005. So I have a really good relationship. In 2003, I was on the Jane's Addiction tour bus, or our crew bus, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So that first meeting with Perry and his wife, Eddie, and then being in Chicago, I've had this long relationship. And so, it's been quite a while shooting with Lollapalooza. And they've always said ever since I've had Emma, like, when are you going to bring her to the show? When are you going to bring her to the show? Well, she's waiting, you know. And the other part too is like, and can I bring my wife? Because I need somebody to, make sure she's okay when I'm actually working. So jump to 2022. She's ready, right? She's ready at this point. You're what? You're 7. Is that what you are? And because you're 8 now, but you're going to be 9 this year. So I think that's right. So I finally said, hey, can I actually take you up on that? And it was the last day. And in particular, the reason why she wanted to go was because of yet another band she introduced me to, which is
Monster. And I heard it on the radio on my mom's car.
I think they won that Eurovision, if I remember right.
Right. Yeah. X Factor or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And so again, another band. So they were playing right before Perry's other band, which is Porno for Pyros. So I thought, okay, well, that's perfect. I can bring them to see Måneskin. And her mom's really into Måneskin too. And then also hang out for Porno for Pyros. And so we hung out in the back for Måneskin. And then before Porno for Pyros came on, we went backstage to go say hi to everybody at what's called there's an artist's village back there. And then there's a separate one just for Perry. And then why don't you tell us about that whole experience?
Sure. I was hanging out with Perry and Perry's wife, Eddie. And I also hung out with their dog.
That's true.
And then
Introduced you to a lot of the band members, right? Stephen Perkins, Peter, the guitarist. And then there was a surprise person.
which was Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Hmm.
He played with Porno for Pyros.
Yeah, he's going to make a special appearance. And how do you know about Smashing Pumpkins music? Actually, how do you know about Smashing Pumpkins, Joan Jett, Def Leppard, all these bands?
From a game called Rock Band or Guitar Hero.
Yeah, so I have the old Wii video game system, and I was able to get that thing running when you were, God, I don't know, you were 5, 4, actually younger than, yeah, something like that. Because there's a photo of you playing the Hofner bass from the Beatles rock band. So she's learned all this music. So that's why she's a fan of Joan Jett. That's why she knows Smashing Pumpkin. And so what's the Smashing Pumpkin song you were playing?
Today.
Song Today. And walked up and told Billy all about that.
That's nice. That's an interesting way to get exposed to some music.
It's sad that that isn't happening anymore. And it's because of the hardware, the physical hardware. You have to have the guitars and things like that to play it. Otherwise, it's too bad because it is yet another avenue. Like I said, it's video games. She's learning it from video games. You'll learn it from YouTube. There's way different ways to learn and find music nowadays than we were as a kid. And that's a really good example. I mean, she knows Queens of the Stone Age because of that. She knows, Ozzy Osbourne because of that, even though you thought Ozzy was a woman when playing it. Yeah.
So you met a lot of people there. You also met the drummer from Metallica, I believe, as well, right?
So where we put a lot of this stuff is I make a scrapbook for her. Yeah, some of her credentials and things like that.
Wow. Nice. Those are great keepsakes. My goodness. Well, did you want to move on? I was going to say, guys, you went to see Guns N' Roses at Wrigley Field, right? In August of 2023. So that was
Last year.
And Emma picked up another souvenir at that show as well. You want to talk about that, Emma?
So one of the band members, they saw me doing the rock and roll sign.
Well, so wait, let's back up for 1 second. So that was that week where you could cut the air like a knife. One of those hot days last year, really awful. And so it wasn't selling very well for obvious reasons. And so they were giving them away. So my security guy buddy that works at the Aragon said, you wouldn't want some tickets, would you? And I'm like, okay, right? Why not? I figured the worst case scenario, we leave. But a cold front came in. And so the Pretenders opened, right? You saw the Pretenders, Chrissy Hine. And then it was time for Guns N' Roses. And so we had what was called field tickets. So that's literally general admission, but it's absolutely in front row. And because of that, weather was pretty loose. So we were pretty lucky on that. And yeah, no, we stayed for the whole show. And then during that, she's right at the pit fence. And what are you doing?
Under the rock and roll sign.
The rock and roll sign. Okay.
And then the bass player, Duff McKagan, notices her and starts smiling.
and then throws a guitar pick, or a guitar pick, and I couldn't find it.
It disappears in the darkness,
And then,
basically.
and then we just did like, what? Like, we can't find
Yeah.
it. And then,
He signals to somebody on stage, and that person hand delivers it.
yes. And then later on, we did find the other guitar pick, and we gave it to a fan.
To give it to another fan. Yeah, I can't believe how you never know how much they can see you, especially in the crowd, but he clearly was very.
No kidding.
And then later on, I got you in center front for November Rain.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't even know how cool some of this stuff is. I mean, I'm a little jaded at this point, but even for this show, it's like, Axl Rose is, I don't know how many feet in front of you. And it's like, wow, I never knew how blue his eyes were. So you have those moments.
That's really something else. Another great story. Then after that, let's see, what do I have? I've got so many notes here, guys.
Yeah, I know. After that, we went back to Duran Duran again and had a blast at Northerly Island. Chic again opened up in Bastille. And then we went to Riot Fest. Her mom wanted to see Foo Fighters. And then we jumped to September for Al Jardine. There's a end of summer Schaumburg September Fest. So it's in the suburbs. And Al, I'd worked with, I think it was a year ago, when he played City Winery, and I did a portrait session with him. And they liked it so much, they ended up buying it to use for promotion. So I ended up having a real good relationship with Al. And we'd been talking about doing more stuff with his manager, Spud. Can't make these names up. And Spud is former radio guy, online personality or on-air personality in LA. So that's where Spud came from. I didn't get the whole reason. I don't think he's shaped like a potato, but a really great guy. And so I saw that he was coming, to the suburbs. And so we ended up hooking it all up with photos. And then, so we shot the opener, which was a cover band that was from Heart to Heartbreaker. So it was the band Heart they were covering, and Pat Benatar, which is kind of fun. You met him afterwards and talked to him. And then it was time for Al Jardine. And this is the second time you ended up using a real camera. So why don't you show this thing?
It's a Canon digital single lens reflex camera.
Yeah. And this is now a mirrorless. So mirrorless is getting easier and easier. It's almost like cheating to some degree. Problem with concert photography is that you're shooting into lights. And so lights are doing all types of weird things. So you kind of still have to override some of the lighting because of that, because it wants darker than it is, because it's trying to balance the light that's going right in your face.
Yeah.
And of course, the bottom line is composition and everything. And so the one thing that I'm doing, especially whether it's at the Led Zeppelin 2 shows and even this one, is I'm teaching Emma how to shoot. So the reason why Led Zeppelin and Al Jardine is that we have the whole set. So it's not just pointing to the subject and shooting. You got to learn a lot of different things. You also got to learn how to hold it. So what have I taught you?
You'll need to put your elbows to your chest, and when you're taking the photo, try not to breathe, because then
And why is that? What are you trying to do?
you're trying to keep it steady.
When I saw you guys at that Led Zeppelin 2 concert, yeah, I was amazed, Emma, at how you could handle that camera. It's pretty big. That's a big camera for someone, who's 8 years old. But you were all over it. You were taking all sorts of pictures, and that was really something else. And this Al Jardine photo shoot, your dad was saying that he was kind of posing for you while he was playing a little bit, right? He's like mugging for the camera, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny because I don't think he was aware that she was going to be in the pit. And I saw him at one point, her catch his eye, and then it was like a sparkle. It was really Al Jardine's sparkle.
And I was trying to focus on him because when he noticed me, he started to do poses, like he'll point once in a while, or he'll just do like funny poses.
Like his eyes, he would just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes I focused on his son, but most of the time I just focused on him.
Yeah. So his son is actually the one that's doing the Brian Wilson vocal. So it's a dad-daughter show. But the one thing I forgot, so I started really focusing on those two. And that's also what I tell her too. Here's the main people to focus on. it helps sometimes, and I can't always do it, but it's good to know your band. It's good to do your research. But I also kind of neglected in my brain, like the next day or so, Spud emailed me and said, "Oh, when can we see the photos?" And then I sent him, he's like, "Oh, do you have this person and this person?" Because it's not just called Al Jardine, it's called Al Jardine and the Endless Summer Band.
Okay.
Kind of forgot about that. And they were like, "Hey, do you have any shots of the drummer or the keyboardist?" And I said, "Wait, but I know who does."
Your backup photographer.
He covered my butt on that one. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have been the worst, but I'm like, yes, I do. So they liked the photos so much. When, social media promoting that show and everything, you had some photos in there too, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I saw some of those photos. They're really, really great photographs. Really nice. Yeah, I saw you guys at the Led Zeppelin 2 concert. And again, I was just amazed at Emma. She was very serious, taking lots of pictures. There's no messing around. Yeah, and you guys were really rocking it, so to speak. But I was gonna maybe ask you just some general questions, Emma. I I like the progression too of like you go from a point and shoot Polaroid camera to now something that's pretty much like your dad uses, right? This single lens reflex.
Yeah.
Emma, what happened? Why the change? What was there a moment?
Yes. So, at one of the concerts, I bring my Polaroid again, but he forgot that we had to charge it, and it ran out of battery. And I'm like, then I just had to sit down and do nothing basically.
So, well, but it was, yes, that was a daddy failure. I was at Jane's Addiction opening up for Smashing Pumpkins at United Center. And Jane's is another band we play a lot. Yes, you couldn't do that. But what was the other problem? What's the other thing you were noticing with Polaroid?
Oh, they can't zoom in. You to a certain point, and that's it.
So she's looking at my photos like, well, I can't get closer. How do I get closer? The other thing too is that, Polaroids only have 10 photos, I think. And then we got to
Yeah.
put new film. So I'm trying to shoot. And she's like, "Danny, I need new film." I'm like, oh my God. So, and then also too, where do you put the photos while you're shooting? It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
After that, it occurred to me, we went home at some point and I said, here's a camera, can you handle this? And so we figured out which lenses she could use that were lighter than others. And
Some were really like taking me down.
yeah, you would think like the 16 to 35 millimeter, which is a wider lens, would be a light lens, but it's not. The 70 to 200, which is one of the bigger zoom lenses I have, is the new one is really, really light. So that works really well for you. You would think it would be heavier, yes, but it's not. Yeah. And that was the thing. So that was the change. That's why I went, okay, let's see if you can do this. If I need that lens or that camera, I'll grab it from you briefly. You can use the other one. So ends up being that whole thing. So that's what happened there with that show. But we had to change it around. And I want her to be happy with her photos.
Yeah, no, that's a professional grade camera.
Yeah, she's using one of the high end Canons now. I mean, the R5 mirrorless is quite expensive camera.
Do you talk about this with your friends at school? Does it come up at all?
No, not really, unless it's the band that they like or they listen to. But otherwise, no.
No. Okay.
Yeah, you figure their mom may know Joan Jett. I mean, again, I can't emphasize enough. Rock Band and Guitar Hero, they really bring you back to some of these songs that you don't. I mean, she doesn't listen to the radio that much.
Only when I'm in my
Only when your mom's car, because I never listen to the radio. I'm always streaming. I still have an iPod connected into that car with some stuff that I can't stream.
Do you buy concert T-shirts and stuff? Do you ever wear them to school or not really?
sometimes. Yeah.
I've been pretty good. When I was growing up going to concerts, I had to have the program and the concert T-shirt and all that. And the concert T-shirt had to have the cities and and the tour in the back. And so, yeah, I've gotten some of them for her just because they're cool. And yeah, it kind of brings me back a little bit. I mean, Mike Campbell was a funny one. So those same suburban moms were so excited and so like motherly to you that they bought you the vinyl.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they also were selling that night a limited silkscreen signed by all the band of everybody from the Dirty Knobs. So we got that framed. So that's up on our wall. So yeah, we get a little bit Duran, because Duran, the first time we went, we got the program. Did we buy the shirt? Or, sometimes honestly, I like the shirts better on Amazon nowadays.
No, we did.
You didn't buy the shirt. Okay. Olivia Rodrigo, we bought the shirt. We bought Mike Campbell, and I think that's it.
Okay. I was also going to ask, is it hard? I know your dad kind of mentioned this in some of our back and forth, but do you ever get distracted by the crowd when you're photographing? It didn't look like it. You look like you're mostly focused on the band.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice that you might give to, somebody like myself who's just has their cell phone taking pictures and trying to zoom in and stuff? Do you have any advice for us?
A little bit. I'd say to just really focus on the band. If anybody's trying to like chew on accident, just ignore basically.
Okay.
Well, what should he shoot on stage? Who do you focus on?
Usually you focus on the singer and the guitarist. The drummer is a little bit hard to get because the band's all.
I always joke the drummer is the one that always gets screwed because they're almost
They're
impossible.
always in the back.
And not only in the back, they're often in the shadows too. They're not always lit up.
I can verify that. I play in a band called Wrought Iron Soul, and our drummer is always complaining that in any videos that we shoot or whatever, that he's always behind someone else. A lot of the places that we play in are very small clubs, so it's very difficult. We recently played at a place called The Matrix, which is in Naperville, and that's a nice, big, wide stage, and he was so happy because he could actually be seen in some of the shots, and I'm the bass player, so I kinda don't care if people catch me or not.
Yeah, you're a typical bass player. You're the one. You're kind of in the shadows. You're just doing your own thing.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's funny you say that. Yeah, bassists are often like that. Unless you're like Eric Avery with Jane's Addiction. He's like a beast. Remember that, Emma?
Yeah.
He was like a caveman. He's just
Or like Flea and Red Hot Chili Peppers or something like that.
Yeah.
which you saw at Lollapalooza this
Yeah.
past year. Yeah. They were great. They were great. Yes, for sure. Well, and so what else do you try to do? What's what I always tell you about what kind of shot to look for?
Usually for the mic not to be in their face
Yes.
because otherwise it doesn't even look like they're doing anything.
Yeah, separation of the mic if you can. I just saw a recent photo of Mike Watt is playing with Porno for Pyro, and the mic is literally looks like it's
Where his nose is.
its nose and
Literally.
eye. It's what are you doing? This is why I still have a job. It doesn't seem like it should be that obvious. It shouldn't be that complicated, but apparently it isn't always that obvious how people shoot. And then what else? What is this? What do I always tell you to do? The two shot. Yeah, tell us about the two shot. What's the two shot?
They're
So obviously you're going to focus on each individual member, and some members may be more important. Some members may just be original, and the other one is just a touring or a session guy. So,
we're just filling in.
right,
Yeah.
but the two shot is now like say let's just go with Led Zeppelin. You got Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. So your two shot is photographing the two of them together, right? So that's where it's important. So you get your basic shots, and then you start getting your two shots. Robert Plant with Jimmy and things like that.
Plus, they'll probably do full poses together too.
That's the goal, right? Yeah. And then, but sometimes they don't want to be anywhere near each other.
Yeah, no, it's a whole fluid environment. It's changing constantly. So I'd imagine that's pretty challenging to capture it a split second,
You were telling me this last night that you could, who was it that you could predict a moment?
So what I say is that you will always usually if they're about to do a cool move, you can kind of predict if they're about to like move a hand movement or something, or they do like 3 claps or something like that, and then they'll do their cool move. That's what you also want to get.
Yeah, you start, well, if you're shooting them enough or you pay attention, they seem to repeat themselves on certain moves and things. Like Emma was telling me that last night, and it reminded me of Audio Slave when I was touring with them in 2003 with that last Lollapalooza. Tom Morello had a move that he would do every time before he jumped. And before he jumped, he would bounce his foot 3 times and his guitar up in the air. And that third time you knew he was going to jump in the air after that. There are those moments, and they're not conscious of doing those things, but they do them every time, or they literally do them for a certain song.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was another good example. I forget what the song was. If they played it during our first three, at the end of that song, Sting and Andy Summers were actually absolutely going to jump at the very end of that song. Happened every single time. There's no question. Yeah, it's weird, but those are the things that happen. And that's what Emma was saying too, right? That you start to see that.
Yeah.
You see certain patterns that they kind of go to. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I'll take note of that next time I'm trying to zoom in on my iPhone. Anything else that you guys want to chat about before we wrap up?
I mean, as far as your photos right now, Emma, they're just mostly in your scrapbook, right? Maybe we'll make a website at some point.
Okay. Yeah, I'd definitely like to see that. Yeah, Barry, you mentioned these notes. I have more notes on Emma's concert experiences than I do sometimes when we're interviewing people who've been going to concerts for 30 years. You've packed a lot in this short amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other thing I would add is that, she's doing concerts, but you're also doing red carpets with me.
And you're assistant for that too.
She's assisting me on that. Yeah. You have a short window of being a cool dad and, before they go, whatever, dad. And so this is unusual experience. And yeah, you've seen more concerts. I mean, I didn't really start seeing concerts until I was 16. So, that's crazy. So if I can share the experience, that's great. So yeah, she's been doing red carpets with me. Suddenly I'm doing a lot of comedians at the Chicago Theater. And so we did last year, Leanne Morgan. And then just a couple weeks ago, we did,
Fortune.
Yeah. Fortune.
Feimster.
Yeah. I always get her name wrong. And so again, she assisted me with portraits and then, we're shooting the whole stand-up set. So what else did you do?
So when he was doing the portrait for her, I took some photos on my phone too.
Yep. And then, just with your phone on this one.
Yeah.
But then afterwards during the stand-up.
I took some photos with this camera too.
So now she's going into stand-up comedian photography.
Wow.
And we went backstage afterwards and what happened?
We saw their dog and her wife.
Well, and we also saw her and what'd she say?
And she said, I saw you shooting me.
Yeah. Again, I'm always worried, but it appears she thought it was cute. So
Barry, I was going to kind of wrap up with you'd mentioned your cool dad. When I was a little bit older than Emma, my mom, I was in sixth grade. My mom took me to see the Eagles. It was the first concert I went to. I think I was 11 or something. And then from that point on, she would take me and my friends. We saw Pink Floyd at Soldier Field, 1977. And then we'd go to all these concerts and, I'd tell people this and they would say, man, you've got a cool mom. And I would say, like, yeah, she's pretty cool. And so Emma, I think you've got a cool dad. Would you say he's pretty cool?
He's all right, right? Those shows that you talked about, though, I mean, that's like the real Pink Floyd. That's the real Eagles. That's pretty crazy. Eagles are coming back. I'm going to see them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're, just trying to sort out our concert schedules and stuff. And there's just so many people to see and bands. And it's definitely tough to keep up on.
Well, that's what's great about Chicago, right? We're a really good hub. Everybody comes here. And then we go sneak over to Milwaukee or Detroit, which I was just at, or Indianapolis. But for the most part, you don't have to go anywhere in Chicago. That's why we're here.
Yeah, everybody comes through here. So, all right, guys, have any closing thoughts?
We're going to keep shooting and we keep bringing you to shows if and when I can, for sure. Yeah, I mean, now that she's using a real camera, eventually, I guess my goal is eventually I can be
Take up your job.
exactly, and I can be your assistant.
I can earn you some money.
Yeah, you need to earn me some money. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Well, it's been great chatting with you two and really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Yeah, we look forward to maybe seeing it at a show or something.
Absolutely. Don't be a stranger. Say hi for sure.
All right. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Emma.
That's a wrap for our show. I want to thank today's guests for sharing their concert stories with us. Make sure to check out our show notes at seeingthemlive.com for links to websites, photos, and other artifacts mentioned in the show. I also want to thank my producer, Doug Florzak. The theme music for the show was composed by Doug and is featured on his album, Flagstone. If you have a concert story you'd like to share on our podcast, please visit our website and click on Become a Guest in the main menu. Then fill out the form and click the Submit button. If you seem like a good fit for the show, we'll contact you via email. I guess it's time to head for the exits. We'll see you next time on Seeing Them Live.